Okay, well, we have a flaperon done, and I didn't bother to record it. I'll record a little bit of doing the next one. This is a right handboard, or right outboard flaperon here. Couple little things about these, and I'll probably touch on them again later, is the two mounting brackets on the bottom, both here and here. They tell you to rivet those once your skeleton's assembled and then apply your skin. As a scratch builder, I don't think that's a good idea. I've got them clecoed in place. Now they're riveted on, but on the one that I'm working on now, they're clecoed in place, but I want to be able to remove them when I initially set where my spar and the ribs are going to sit underneath the skin. The reason being, it's a whole lot easier to be able to set it down flat, measure it all out, then mark where these cutouts go, and then go ahead and do your cutouts in your skin. Then you can reassemble these and go ahead and rivet them in place once you've got a good fit, and then they'll fit down so everything will still sit in position so you can lay it out and rivet the rest of it. So I think that's a better way of doing it. The only other really interesting thing that I found, and I wish I would have discovered it before I riveted the trailing edges on my flaperons, because I've got a little bit of a wave on them, and I think the best thing to do when you go to drill them, and mine I drilled from the back side, so it was set in this position. I laid out my rivet line along here and then drilled them. I think the best way to drill them is to use a support underneath them, and actually this little frame that I used for my flaperon spars worked out real well. And what I did is I just set it underneath. The angles matched pretty good, so I just set it underneath just like that. Then I went ahead and drilled them and clecoed them directly into that board, and I'll do that for the other three too. That gave me a pretty nice straight line where I've got some waviness on the flaperons, and I would almost imagine I'll have the same issue when I go to rivet the trailing edges on the skin, although I'll have to check that and be very careful when I do that. Because yeah, they're already drilled and clecoed in place on the wing too, so maybe an issue, maybe not. But anyway, as a scratch builder, that's the way I would do them. And if you're drilling them on the kit too, if you have to drill these holes, I'd still do it the same way, give it some support underneath. So I'm pretty happy with the setup we've got here now. So anyway, that's the first one done. I'm going to go ahead, I've got the left outboard one skeleton assembled, and I'm going to go ahead and assemble it. I'll show you a few clips along the way. What I've done is I set this skin just on the edge of the table, measured back, and combination of going by the plans and going by what the other flaperon came out at, and we're right on. I'm not unhappy with it at all. So what I did is I measured that up, ran a line, and I measured off of where my rear ribs land on the tail end here of each of these. So that's where I ran my line to line those up. Once I got that to where I thought it was supposed to be, I went ahead and, I pulled the angles off the front so that I can lay my skins down flat, the attachment angles, and set that in there, marked out where my spar was going to be on each end, and made a couple little reference marks down through the middle just to verify that it was actually straight. So once I did that, I ran a line across the back of it, and figured out where my rivet line was going to be on top. Went back, or on the bottom is where it actually is, but went back and clamped everything, or set everything in place, marked out where my rib locations were going to be for the back ribs, and then I went ahead and marked them out, and I drilled the skin from the back side at each of those rib intersections, although I still have to do the one clear down here at the end. I didn't do that. And then I went ahead and marked my line on the center line on the bottom of that spar, went back through and drilled and clecoed those to match. So the spar is anchored in place, although I still got to drill all the holes in the front, and I can do that from the top side now that I've got it aligned. So from there, I went ahead and we've got them clecoed up here. We've got just the, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 clecos, I'll add a 6th one down there to make sure we're lined out. Then I can go back and lay out my rivet lines on the top of the spacing, on the top of the skin, the bottom of the skin when I've got it flipped over. And I can go ahead and pre-drill those. Then we'll set it back in place and just verify that we've got a straight rib all the way, or a straight spar all the way along, which we do. Then I went back and I squared up the rear ribs just with my little square on them, and squared them up, marked the back, and then I tentatively marked where the holes go for the very back rivet in the back of each of those spars. So what I'm going to do is I've marked that position. I'm going to pull this spar, or this skeleton, back out. I'm going to go ahead and finish marking my rear rib locations, and I'm going to drill them from the bottom as well as that bottom hole. Then I'm going to go ahead and probably reassemble it, anchor those in place, and then I'll go ahead, mark the bottom rivet line on the spars, go ahead and get those drilled and attached. And then once that's done, go back and lay out and drill for the nose ribs. We've got 3 of those there. And once those are all assembled, clecoed in place, then we'll start working on the top part. So that is where we're at for the moment. So before we take that completely out of there, let's go ahead and pull this. Now at this point, these are both outer spars, or outer flaperons. I'm more interested in keeping them matching as a match set now than I am changing any variations. Get our blue tape anchored on the front of these ribs so we don't mar it up, hopefully. That up and out of the way, and then we can go ahead and mark these back positions. Actually, we could lay out these lines right here and go ahead and drill them once we've got that spacing where we want it to be. Might as well do that from the underside while we're here, then we can just drill those to match on the fronts. Okay. And I'm going to change my setup. I'm just going to go ahead, do my rivet line layout here. And actually, we can do everything from this side. We can do all our drilling on this side because it's going to be matched to the front. And we know that's right. So I'm going to go ahead, redo this setup. I want to pull these spacer blocks or spacer supports out so we can set it down flat on the table. Do like to get those marks out of the way. That may or may not be a mistake, because I may have wanted some reference lines on out here to the edge, but we'll deal with that when we get that far. So now this can go back on. Make sure our tape's going to stay on there. Maybe add another little piece to the front bottom of this one. Oh, getting ahead of ourselves. I didn't mark the bottom of those ribs. Main spar is marked, but the ribs are not. And realistically, the only place that matters is at the very back, because there's not enough space on these for it to be a problem otherwise. And this one doesn't matter because it lines up with the outer edge. But while we're here, let's go ahead and mark those nose ribs, at least tentatively. Try that again. move that one just a little bit, and maybe this one just a little bit. So let's okay. Okay, I'm going to be happy with all of that. So I think what I want to do is go and we'll just add one in each of in the middle of each of these, just to kind of anchor it. Then we're going to put those tail ribs or those rear ribs in. Okay, I like that. Okay, those look good. So I'll just go back, finish drilling and clecoing this bottom together, and then we'll start moving towards the front a little bit.